Eye Contact, a Mark Manning Mystery, Book 2. Author, Michael Kraft. Publisher, Open Road Integrated Media, New York. Narrator, Eric Aust. Driving south from the Journal building along the lake toward Civic Planetarium, Manning reflexively checks his pockets, confirming that he is equipped with pen, notebook, cell phone, and pager. Seated to his right is David Bosch, who has turned in the passenger seat to face Manning, speaking with animated gestures that cause his owlish glasses to inch down his nose. When Gordon Smith took me aside this morning to say that I'd just been assigned to assist Mark Manning with the Zarnik story, I was blown away. I mean, J-School was one thing and the internship was another, but there's nothing like on-the-job experience to really learn a field. And now they placed me at the feet of the master. He mimics an elaborate bow to the Sultan. What is your will, O Great One? I am here to do your bidding. His glasses have slipped down his nose again. He cuts the act and pushes them back. Really, his beefy hand now rests on Manning's shoulder. This is awesome. Manning glances at the hand on his shoulder, then returns his gaze to the road. Sorry. David plants his hands in his lap, looking absurdly prim. Manning isn't sure how much more flattery he can stand. When they left the office this afternoon, David couldn't stop gushing about Manning's car, which pleased him greatly to a point. But now this personal hero routine leaves Manning ready to reopen the discussion of his +1 wheel upgrade. He decides to shift the topic back to business, asking David, "In what capacity does Gordon expect you to function as my assistant? Any clues?" "Guy Friday, I guess." He laughs. "It's up to you, sir. Anything goes." "Please don't call me sir." He tries to keep his sense of humor, but doesn't find this especially funny. David's subservient attitude makes Manning feel older than he'd prefer, even more unsettling in light of Daryl's recent revelation. It hints that David has plans for an after-hours slave and master romp with the boss. This is nuts, Manning tells himself, laughing at his over-vivid imagination. He tells David, "Don't call me Marco either." "Right, Mark." "Hey," says Manning, "I almost forgot. Neil and I are having a party Saturday. No big deal, sort of a housewarming at the loft. Care to come?" "You bet." And then his enthusiasm drains. "Sorry, but I'm booked. My uncle and a friend are arriving from New York on Friday. They've involved with the theater festival as part of Celebration 2000. "Oh." Manning turns to David. "Who are they?" My uncle's name is Hector Bosch. He's, My God," Manning interrupts. "He's the most influential theater critic in New York. He's one hell of a writer." The name never clicked. "Hector Bosch is your uncle?" "One and the same," replies David with a shrug. "Maybe you've heard of his friend, too. She's Claire Gray, a director. Supposed to be pretty good." "Well, sure," says Manning, amazed that David seems unaware of her celebrity status. Claire Gray is not only one of Broadway's best directors, but also a superb playwright. Her first script, Traitors, ended up as a movie a few years ago. "Yeah," says David. "I saw it. That's her." "That is she," Manning dryly corrects him. And then, lightening up, "Why don't you invite them to the party? Neil would be thrilled to meet them. So would I." Big smile. "Sounds like a plan." Spotting the planetarium ahead, Manning reins the conversation back to business. "Did you get very far with your astronomy lesson?" "I read all I could, but I'm not sure how much I absorbed." He knocks on his skull. "In grade school, I memorized the planets in order from the sun, and I can still recite them, but the rest is way beyond me." Ditto. "And Zarnik is among the elite, the most knowledgeable in his field. He seemed friendly enough on the phone when I called. In fact, he sounded inexplicably eager to meet me. But I simply don't feel qualified to question the man. I just have to wing it, and that makes me uncomfortable." Manning turns the car off the road and onto the grounds of the planetarium, parking at the farthest reaches of the lot to minimize the possibility of door dings. The Bavarian V8 is new enough that its interior still smells of leather, and its exterior has not yet been baptized to the ravages of city driving. It's slick, it's black, it's perfect. As they leave the car and Manning sets its alarm with the fob button, David glances back with a gleam in his eye. Sweet rims! Once inside the building, Manning is surprised to find Zarnik himself waiting for him and David at his circular receptionist desk in the noisy, echoing lobby. Manning recognizes the scientist from file photos, but Zarnik cannot identify the two reporters among the crowd. Manning approaches him and extends his hand with a smile. He asks, Dr. Zarnik, I presume? Aha, says the scientist, checking his watch. I knew that you would be prompt. Welcome to my domain. His English is fluent, though colored by a non-native stiffness, spoken with an indefinite accent. Thank you, Professor, and welcome to Chicago. Manny introduces David, and they all exchange pleasantries. The fusty astronomer then leads the two reporters through the back hallways of the planetarium, away from the yattering clumps of children, away from the meteor exhibits and the circular theater with its sky show, up a metal stairway and down another hall. Monday's announcement was timed, Mr. Manning, to coincide with the summer solstice. I do hope such punctuality was not wasted on your readers. Zarnik skitters along with quick, short steps, stopping at a locked door that bears a red plastic sign. Observatory, authorized personnel only. He examines each of several keys hanging from a chain over his white lab coat, like baubles on a necklace. A hefty chrome police whistle rattles among the keys. With a laugh, David asks, What's that for, Professor? Expecting trouble? He shrugs. One never knows where I come from. Everyone believes that Chicago is yet riddled by gangsters. Now that I have come to know your city, I am happy that this seems not true. Nonetheless, as you Americans are fond to say, better safe than sorry. He gives his whistle a toot, unlocks the door, and waves. David and Manning inside. Arcane electronic hardware clutters the fluorescent-lit room, whirring constantly, blinking randomly. A dusty chalkboard runs the length of one wall, but instead of mind-boggling formulas, it bears only a grocery list, a stray phone number. Computer screens stare blindly at the new visitors. Manning, in turn, absorbs the visual details of the laboratory, uncapping his Mont Blanc and scribbling a few hasty notes. Dr. Zarnik asks, Is something amiss, Mr. Manning? You appear perplexed. Your observatory isn't what I expected, he explains. I was hoping for a giant telescope, but would have made a great backdrop for a photo. Zarnik clucks as though Manning should know better. No telescope could possibly fathom such depths of space to view so small a planet. A dead spake of cosmic sand spinning wildly in the darkness? No, Mr. Manning. This, he pats the top of a computer monitor, this is my window to the universe. David asks, How does it work? As Zarnik begins explaining some of the intricacies of his research, David stands listening and Manning sits at a desk to take notes. The professor rambles on about vector points, magnetic fields, and polar wobble. Manning struggles to follow, dutifully transcribing Zarnik's verbal monotony, but his mind begins to drift and his eyes are soon exploring the room again. There's a fire cabinet in a wall near the door, stocked with an axe, extinguisher, and folded hose. On the floor, a foot-thick bundle of cable snakes between the towering racks of high-tech electronic gear from the desktop, where Manning writes a stack of green bar printout spills over the edge and into a wastebasket. He pushes aside a half-eaten peanut butter sandwich to make more room for his notebook, and at the corner of the desk he notices a no-frills Radio Shack VCR. Finding it difficult to concentrate, Manning loosens his tie. Excuse me, Professor, but let me bring this discussion back to planet Earth for now. I'd like to cover a few basic facts and figures. For instance, the theoretical basis of your research. Who has been your key influence? Which methodology have you followed? For the first time, the astronomer's tone shows signs of annoyance, as if perturbed by this direction of the interview. I would be loath to sound egotistical in such matters, and I hope you will afford me the courtesy of not printing these words, but my research is truly revolutionary, grossly more sophisticated than methods of radio astronomy employed in the past. There is no precedent for what has been accomplished in this room. If you insist upon labeling my method, however, It should rightly be termed the Zarnical model. Both Manning and David are now making copious notes. Manning asked, "Can you tell me how much computer power is at work here?" Says Zarnik, waving both arms about the room as though the answer should be self-evident. "All of it?" "No," says Manning with a laugh. "I'm talking about gigabytes and such." Zarnik pauses, weighing his words. "I'm ashamed to admit that I do not know. The battery of computers was installed in phases, designed as we progressed. We are charting new territory here, unknown worlds, and to devise a comprehensive plan at the outset would be rash. So the computer power required by this project has been left as an open-ended variable. I have no accurate numbers at this moment, but if you care to check back, I shall compile them for you." "Thank you. Yes, I'll do that." Zarnik dons a pair of reading glasses and makes a note of his own. The easy manner of his pencil strokes shows his satisfaction in having successfully dodged the question. Just when he's feeling off the hook, though, Manning asks, "And what about funding?" Zarnik's pencil stumbles on the pad. "Funding?" Manning borrows Zarnik's earlier gesture encompassing the entire room. "This stuff doesn't come cheap. What did it cost, and who paid for it?" "I'm a scientist." He clears phlegm from his throat. "Not a bookkeeper. The pursuit of science, the gleaning of knowledge, purely for its own sake, is among men's highest callings. Man's curiosity, his thirst to know, defines his very humanity. My role in this noble endeavor is to supply the vision, and I dare say the brains. What it costs and where it comes from is of no concern to me. I find myself in the happy position of, what is the expression? Not losing sleep over it. You came to Chicago from Switzerland with the help of our State Department. Can we assume that your work here is backed by federal dollars?" Zarnik takes off his glasses, thinking. "I presume so, yes." "Which agency do you presume provides the funding?" Zarnik chews the ends of his glasses. "I do not know. The funding for this project must amount to many millions of dollars. Can you hazard a guess as to how many?" Zarnik tucks the glasses into a pocket. "No, I cannot." Manning says, "Excuse me, Professor, if this question sounds too personal, but who signed your paycheck?" Zarnik tells him, "I am paid by the Chicago Civic Planetarium. I do not recall that anyone signs it. A computer spits it out." Sensing that he is pushed as far as he dare, Manning says, "Thank you. Dr. Zarnik, this has been helpful. Please understand that I didn't intend to grill you this afternoon. By the nature of my job, I need to dig for hard facts. You can surely appreciate that being a man of science, well, let these issues slide for now in favor of the central question." Zarnik asked, "That be what?" "I write for a very general readership, what we used to call in less peevish times the common man. Those readers don't care about vectors, they just want an answer. Is there really a 10th planet out there? If you can prove your claim to my satisfaction, I'll let them know." Zarnik sighs, clapping his palms to his cheeks. "Ah, thank you, Mr. Manning. You're truly a godsend." He plants himself in a chair to face Manning, squarely rolling so close that their knees touch. He explains, "Though I am new here, your repute has spread far beyond this city. You are known to be scrupulous, insightful, and fair." Zarnik punctuates each adjective by tapping his index finger on Manning's khaki-clad leg. "It is important that you understand this discovery, that you know it, believe it, and then you can tell the world. You mentioned on the phone that you've developed a simple demonstration that makes the validity of your discovery apparent to any layman. I believe you called it," Manning checks his notes, "a graphic realization." David interjects, "Cool." Zarnik stands and turns toward David, smiling. He tells him, "Indeed it is, my young friend, but alas, it is now too late. The demonstration, which depends on the simultaneous gathering and comparison of data transmissions, can be made only during a narrow astronomical oculus, for a few fleeting moments at noon." David frowns. "I wish we'd seen it." "And you surely shall," Zarnik tells him. He explains, "There will be another prime oculus in 2 days, Friday at noon. Can you return then?" David turns to Manning, who stands answering, "Absolutely, Professor. I'll need to see the demonstration before I can draw any conclusions in print." He notes the appointment in his datebook. That will leave me just enough time to finish the story for the weekend editions. Zarnik reaches to shake Manning's hand. Thank you so much. That is all I ask. You will not be disappointed, but please take care to arrive a few minutes early or the opportunity may be missed. He also extends his hand to David, escorting both reporters to the door, which he opens for them. Preparing to leave the lab, Manning turns and says, Excuse me, Professor, but something's troubling me. You've just announced the biggest astronomical news since the 30s, when Pluto was discovered, and your claim has been met by the skepticism of your peers. Reporters everywhere, including the scientific press, are now clamoring to get to you, but when I phoned earlier, you said that you were eager to speak to me alone. I appreciate the exclusive, but why me? Zarnik answers flatly. Because you are known to be the best in your field. David concurs, nudging Manning with his elbow, flashing him a thumbs up. I'm flattered, Manning tells Zarnik, but any science writer would be far better qualified to judge your research and interpret it for the public. Those hacks are more leeches on the carcass of science, sucking the blood of knowledge from the work of others. Besides, they are read by no one excepting other, how do you say, eggheads. Manning laughs. You have a point, Professor. Even so, I'd be much more comfortable if Clifford Nolan, the journal's science editor, could witness your demonstration as well. He's far more qualified than I. To the contrary, scoffs Zarnik. He struck me as a mere dilettante whose mind is ruled by crude skepticism. Manning blinks. You met him? Of course, Zarnik answers, as if Manning should have known. He came here on Monday, shortly after my press release was issued. We discussed my discovery at length, but he left unconvinced. Fortunately, your paper had both the taste not to print his worthless words and the intelligence to remove him from this story. Manning assures him, the journal did nothing of the kind. Cliff Nolan never delivered a story. That's the only reason I'm on this assignment now. The astronomer shrugs. It matters not. As the great bard of your native tongue so aptly observed, all is well which ends well. With a curt nod of his head, he dismisses the two reporters from his lab, closing the door with a thump. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.